I have now officially been coaching powerlifters for 10 years. In that time, I've seen a lot of cool moments, being a part of a ton of PRs, and have been so fortunate to have gotten to contribute to a number of all-time and IPF world records. So today, I'm going to take you through the biggest lessons I've learned, the most important realizations I've had, and the best advice I can give to any up-and-coming coach. First off, if you're new to this, you need to prioritize being as good of a lifter as you can be. Note that I did not say that you need to be a great lifter in order to be a great coach, because there are plenty of great coaches that lack the genetics to hit those insane totals, but they've learned a shit ton on the way to where they are now. There's also a lot of guys that have all of the genetic gifts in the world, but never struggled on their way to the top and therefore did not learn all that much. So when it comes to developing skills as a coach, I don't think that the total you hit matters all that much. What matters is how far are you able to get in relation to your potential. And the reason I think that matters is if you're going to get as far as you can get in this sport, you are going to be forced to try really hard for a really long time, and you will face adversity on that road. And being able to handle, overcome, and learn from that adversity will build the most valuable skills and frameworks in regards to your career as a powerlifting coach. For myself, solving problems in my own lifting gave me the confidence to know I could solve problems for other lifters. Figuring out how to find progress after major injuries means that I can figure out how to get another lifter back from a similar situation. And having been through it, having made mistakes and having learned from them, I know I can help a lifter identify and learn from their mistakes before they even really make them. So if you do want to be a coach, make sure that you are pushing your own training, working hard, and learning as you go. Because in order to help people, you need to have experience, and you really don't want to be the guy whose only experience in powerlifting is going until he hits a roadblock and then quitting and then deciding to coach. Number two is that the program really doesn't matter. But Seth, if you're selling coaching, aren't you technically selling programs to lifters? Well, yeah, but the value doesn't come from the program itself. It comes from how well the program is matched to the lifter's needs. And when you really understand the fundamentals of powerlifting programming, you begin to realize that it doesn't matter if it's linear, if it's block, if it's conjugate, if it's DUP, if it's really anything, as long as you know what the lifter in front of you needs, and as long as you understand the system well enough to adapt it to the lifter, it is going to work. And yeah, I am a conjugate guy, but the reason I'm good at what I do is because I understand that there are other ways to program besides conjugate. And by being able to blend those principles and philosophies into my system as a whole, I have developed a very broad toolkit that can work in a huge variety of situations. So don't get married to a single philosophy. Do your best to learn from everywhere. It doesn't mean that you have to use everything all the time, but the bigger your tool bag, the more tools you're going to have to do tool things with. Number three is that in powerlifting, getting stronger is going to solve pretty much all of your problems. Oh, you missed a squat? Well, if you were stronger, you probably wouldn't have. Did your technique break down? Well, if you were stronger, you probably could have held position. Does your tricep tendon hurt when you're bench pressing? Well, if you made your elbows stronger, your triceps tendon would probably be more resilient and better be able to handle what you're trying to do with it in training. You guys get the point, which leads me to point number 4. Quit obsessing over the fluffy bullshit. Because you see, everyone getting their panties in a bunch over these lame little fluffy mobility or technique drills. And yeah, if you are starting from zero, they can be a decent place to start to get a little bit of practice in. But if we're trying to get better at moving a really freaking heavy barbell, we better start doing something that challenges our ability to move under load. Because your ability to display flexibility is going to be specific to the amount of force you are required to produce in that position. And your ability to display technique is going to come back to whether or not you're strong enough to maintain that technique underneath the load you are lifting. So mobility, broomstick drills, fluffy stuff, whatever, yeah, it can be a good way to lay the foundation to build strength work on top of, but if we're trying to solve powerlifting problems, we need to be doing it with enough weight to translate back to a big squat, bench, or deadlift. Number 5 is that it's not the quantity of communication that matters in coaching, it is the quality of the communication that is happening. Because a lot of young coaches will pride themselves on how they send each of their clients hundreds of messages every single day. But the way I see it is if I need to send a client 100 messages to get the point across, not only am I wasting their time, I am failing as a coach and a communicator. Because the better I can communicate and convey a message, the easier it will be for them to understand, and the less time will be wasted for both of us, and therefore the value of the communication goes up. And don't get me wrong, I'm not advocating ignoring your lifters or minimizing communication. I'm saying to respond as quickly as you can, but in doing so, make sure that it's clear and concise so the lifter can then quickly apply it to their training and get better rather than needing to go back and forth for 3 hours straight. Because if someone can solve your client's problem in 3 words, but it takes you 3,000, your client sure as shit isn't going to want to read all 3,000 of those words. Point number 6 is that what makes communication quality is whether or not the lifter understands the intent that you have when you're getting them to do something. Because how a lifter performs an exercise, approaches a set, or goes about the movement can have drastic implications on the outcome of the program. So when I'm communicating with my lifters, the most important things I'm communicating is why I am making the changes that I am, what those changes are intended to accomplish, and how we are going to actually go about executing in order to accomplish them. Because if a lifter understands those things, they're going to have a way easier time at accomplishing the goal, and they're going to be more bought in, so they actually do it. And I think point number 7 is probably going to be the most important in making sure your clients are successful and you're improving as a coach. That is, if your client isn't getting better, it falls back on you. Because let's face it, if a lifter isn't doing the job, if they don't understand the plan, if they're screwing up everything that they could be, it's really easy to want to blame them. But if you decide as the coach that it is your responsibility to ensure that they understand what they're supposed to be doing, that they know the value in it, and that they are actually doing the work that is required of them, they're going to get better. So if a client isn't making progress, they're screwing things up, they're getting hurt, it's not the client's fault. It is your fault in either your programming or how you're going about communicating the intent of the program to your lifter. And what I always tell myself is that if I have a lifter compete and they go less than 8 for 9, it means that I didn't do my job. We're giving ourselves one attempt for that weird shit can happen situation. But ultimately, if we work together well, we communicate well, we peak well, and we call our numbers well, there's no reason to ever miss more than one lift on meet day. And holding myself to that standard over the years has made me more and more confident in my ability to help lifters make decisions and communicate the intent of what we need to be doing. So guys, this is by no means a comprehensive list in how to be a really good powerlifting coach, but I do believe that if you can wrap your head around the things that I talked about here and strive to learn and grow every single time you're working with a lifter, you will make it as a good coach. And if you want to save yourselves a lot of trial and error and frustration along the way to figuring this stuff out, hit that link below and sign up for Team Activated today, because my goal is to give you guys the mentorship that you need to improve your skills as both a lifter and a powerlifting coach.